50 Cent and Alexandria Stapleton, the docu-series, Sean Combs' The Reckoning, #1 on Netflix, ahead of Stranger Things. I mean, it is more successful than I imagined people even thought it would be. What's your response to how well it's doing?
I expected it to be #1. I told Alex in advance that she should expect it and prepare a award speech in advance because I got a chance to see the details of it as it was developing. And I felt like I could feel it was going to be a big success. But when it comes in over Stranger Things, I didn't anticipate that much success because that's a big franchise to me. Like I've been over the years watching that.
Yeah.
You know.
Alex, what's this been like for you? And coming into this, like what was sort of the core mission that you wanted to accomplish in doing this docu-series?
I think, and just to kind of like roll off of what 50 was saying, I did not believe that I did not believe that it was going to be this crazy, but he's been the biggest champion of it. And so I think the goal like was, the original conversation that 50 and I had in sitting down and talking about it, in the wake of Cassie filing her lawsuit, which is when we kind of had our first conversation, like right then, was uh understanding that there were a lot of rumors in the industry. There was a lot of talk about, some of this bad behavior. I think Cassie's lawsuit, the level of detail that, getting underneath the hood and seeing the level of detail that she brought forward was really a lot to digest. And I think that both 50 and I were really interested in the nuances of tackling a story like this like kind of understanding, where does the role of victim, begin and end versus like being a perpetrator and kind of understanding cycles of violence and these kind of reoccurring patterns and just seeing how complex the story was and that no one was really treating it like that. Everyone was just very focused on salacious headlines and like with no context, And so I think for us, we wanted to put that care into the story.
But they did characterize it as a hit piece in the very beginning, is because they didn't get a chance to watch it, when they were saying that. And then after they see it, you see everyone's changed their mind and it becomes the #1 dog.
But also someone calling it a hit piece was a statement from Diddy's team. So I mean, what's your response to Diddy's team? Of course, they're going to probably have an opinion. And then what's your opinion on people that just say that you're petty? Are you petty?
I accept that. I'll take that. I'll wear that. I'm fine. Like I have antics that I've become comfortable with on social media because of the usage of social media. That's just that. You know what I mean? Like, but when they look at, they'll say me deciding to go on ABC is petty. The morning show is the biggest show.
Yeah.
These people they came from. It's a great opportunity to be on that actual platform, and then but they looked at it further and said it's airing in prison, so this would be why I would like to do that. And it didn't come across as a reason not to. Of course, I was aware that it would be airing.
And for both of you, one of the other questions fans are asking is, there are a lot of great and powerful interviews in this, but where are A-list celebrities? Where are people in his orbit that remain silent? Like they've never really even spoken out against the allegations or anything that's going on. Are people just concerned about their careers? Are they afraid to speak out? Why is, because I remember Harvey Weinstein right away, everyone was like piling on and
Yeah, yeah.
talking. Why is everyone afraid to say anything about Diddy?
It's a part of the hip hop culture. Like they think that they are telling something. Or just mind your business type of thing. Like, so if there's no, other than that, you would look, if I wasn't saying the things that you've heard me say, there would be nothing being said at all. So it'd just be, you would assume that the culture is for those behaviors.
I also think that it's really important for people to know that of course, in making this film, there was a lot of effort that went into contacting so many people, to come to the table and to sit. And so if you think that if you're watching this and you're like, and there's a lot of names on social media, they're like, where is this person? I want to see what they have to say. You can probably just assume that we reached out to those people and we either, they either declined or they never got back to us or, whatever, for whatever reasons, for their own personal reasons, but it wasn't because the work on this side of the table wasn't done to conduct those reach outs.
Yeah. Farnsworth Bentley. Everyone, that's the one I hear the most. Like, where's the butler or whatever he was? I don't know. So who was when you did finally get people that were willing to speak to you, how did you gain their trust? There's a lot of emotional, like
Yeah,
intense subject matter that they're going through in this docuseries.
Alex was that. I think she relaxed them. Her communications and when she spoke to them about her intentions of how to develop the project, that they became more comfortable with it. Like, a lot of times I wouldn't get into details with them until she actually had communications with them. You don't know what fits, what doesn't fit, or how she wants to tell a story.
And I think that people also have to remember this kind of goes into why some people chose to be a part of it and some people didn't. We started this before there was an indictment. So, the cult, the air, the
Mm.
vibe, when we first started this, people were really afraid because it wasn't obvious that he was going to be indicted. It wasn't obvious that he was going to have to like go to jail. And I think that there was still a lot of fear about retribution and retaliation. And there's a lot of people that talk in this community and in this world. And so even talking to me or talking to 50, people kind of the rumor mill, behind the scenes of people that people were paranoid that just in having a conversation that could be something that could get back to Diddy and his team. So there was a lot of paranoia, a lot of fear. And I think that that's a big part of why a lot of people didn't participate. And then the ones that did come forward and did agree to talk, there were a lot of, my goal was just for them to know, like, whatever you want to share, the good, the bad, and the ugly, or, like, I'll take. I just want your truth. Like that's what we're after. And as a documentarian, you can only craft a story based on the facts that you get coupled with the interviews and the information that's being given to you and vetting that.
How difficult is it to vet stories that come forward? I mean, did you speak to people that you didn't end up using in the docu series?
We had a lot of conversations. There were a lot of conversations with people that were very much behind the scenes that are not on camera. There's a lot that's like not in the series, that we talked about with the people that actually did participate. I mean, there's a lot of conversations, a lot of phone calls, a lot of and even with 50, I mean, he can speak to that, but there were it was just endless because there was so much incoming going on. And at the end of the day, we only have 4 hours. And I think that a lot of people feel like they want, besides seeing more people, they want more, parts of the story that have been out there. But there's only so much TRT that we have to put the
Yeah.
story together.
Yeah, but Alex, now Netflix may feel different considering the numbers.
Yeah, there might be a four new parts. Do you have that in your bandwidth?
I no comment right now. I'm just trying to rest.
Two of the people making a lot of waves are the jurors that speak out. I give them credit for coming forward, but they are not being well received in social media. So, what were they thinking, saying yes, and what was it like for you to get that insight? Because I mean, that's what people really wanted to know. So, I do give them a lot of credit for sharing their side of the story.
I think that, it is important for people to realize that they do make very valid points. First of all, I think that all of the jurors obviously stood behind what the decision was. And, I would be curious to know, like, after seeing this whole series, what their opinion is. But I, I know that are not, there are people out there that the interviews are not sitting so well with, but you know, our job was just to kind of present some of the questions, or to get people to talk about how the legal system works, how it works when we have matters of sexual assault, and how complicated it is. And I think that one very interesting comment that Juror 160 made was that she felt that he could be violent, but that wasn't one of the charges. And I think that, you know, that's it's for a lot of people, that's something that's hard to hear, but on a technicality, she is correct that those charges were not brought forward, against Sean Combs. Where it gets into coercion, like that is a very that's where it gets very nebulous. And I think all that we were trying to do was to present, like, this is our legal system at play, and this is how it worked out.
There's also a significant part of the docuseries that gets into just hip hop culture and Tupac and Biggie and everything that surrounded their death. Why was that important for you to have in the Series 50? And what do you remember about that time? And I mean, you were embedded in hip hop culture. So what was your opinion of that at that time? And were people sort of quietly saying things in the music industry that wasn't getting out?
Absolutely. Like I have a record. I rapped about that in 2006. Like there's a difference like between what they'll say to each other than what they would say in a docuseries. At this point, it's already common knowledge, like those things.
And outside of this story, I mean, can this is probably like this could probably go on for an hour, just this question, but from your perspective of someone who's been through Hollywood and music, I know Hollywood has its own set of problems, but the music industry, and this is just in general, not just about Diddy or hip hop, I don't know one musician who doesn't feel like they've been like royally screwed by the music industry. And
Right.
just say it's terrible from artists who are barely signed and can't get their album out to Taylor Swift. So what is wrong with the music business? Like what do you I know that's a big question, but what's your opinion?
I think what was wrong with the music business is gone. It's different.
Okay.
You don't need there's no A&R going on. If you think the artist that would have been a writer because he's like 600 pounds and they're saying he's not marketable. If he's still a talented artist, they would have took those songs and let him be a writer for someone they thought had a higher probability of sales. So when now you'll see that guy with his record will come out because he'll put it on iTunes, on YouTube, and it can take off and take it into a world of its own, like its own life out there. So it's different. Like now artists are meeting the audience before they meet the record company. And in the past, we had to work to earn the right for a major record company to see you as an artist. And then, so you build a reputation in a 10 block radius where you're from, and then it starts to grow outside of that. And when you come across the right people in the business, you'd have an opportunity. That was the difference. And like that's where that whole A&R division and things that where he actually grew as an executive to turn into somebody that would be have a subsidiary to the company and partner with the major label to finance the artist development and kept consistency going. So Bad Boy became like a big company in the business, but those things are not happening that way anymore. It's different. Technology changed the way the business functions, so it's not the same process. Yeah.
And Alex, what was it like for you as the director to make sure you incorporate, I mean, everything that he contributed musically with all of this other stuff? Like how did you sort of fuse all of that together?
Well, that was also, I think a thing that 50 and I were also very much aligned on, that, it's the theme of this conversation, is that there was so much to understand how his empire kind of broke apart, and to understand how he, fell from grace. You have to understand the world that he created, and you have to understand a lot about the culture. And I think that that was very much a missing piece, or a missing ingredient with people with other, stories. And I think in this film, the balance of understanding his contributions, understanding the ecosystem that he created, it's very impressive, what he was able to do in such a short time frame. And then when you start to understand his ecosystem and his relationships and how he was actually kind of mixing the streets with like corporate money, mixed with artists, you start to understand how if there's no one checking, there's no if he's his own boss essentially and kind of running the show, how he could amass so much power and how a lot of that power could go so unchecked, and how he was able to silo so many different people from kind of like staying in their lane. So then you don't understand what's happening over here, in conversations, in the boardroom. And I think that, going back to the second episode when we talk about what happened with Tupac and Biggie, I think that's kind of that's an example on a very large scale of a lot of conversations that were alleged to have happened, but how he was able to kind of to be the Diddy of the for MTV, or at the VMA Awards, and he could kind of separate all of these things from happening. And I want to add too, just to go back to the Tupac of it all and the Biggie of it all. One really important thing I think for people to remember is that, for me, I'm researching, I'm finding, recordings, and with Keefe D, he is telling you the story of Tupac. He is telling, this is from Keefe D, this is not from 50 or from Alex Stapleton. I'm cutting proffer tapes of him telling the story of all of these meetings that he had with Diddy, and how, from his perspective. And to us, it felt very important to let those tapes play because they're from law enforcement, A, and then B, he is currently being incarcerated and held and awaiting trial for that murder. So I think that that's like a very important thing to remember when you're watching this, this that's what we're presenting to you. It's not like one of us going on the screen and being like, this is what happened.
What do you think about like a possibility of him having some sort of comeback when he gets out of prison? Do you think that's a possibility?
I'm not a comeback like in music.
Yeah, just I mean, or are people gonna just be over this?
Well, I don't think he'll have a comeback with people aware that he's behind it. I do think that his passion for music may allow him to go back to make music
Mm.
because he knows that's what he knows, right? And you can do it, and again, without meeting the record company. Like the artists are meeting the audience before they meet the record company now. So you could do those things and develop things of value. And when the company is interested, you end up making a deal, but they don't know that they did the deal with the public doesn't know that they did the deal with him. You see what I'm saying? So he would be able to do that, but I don't see him like publicly people supporting him.